All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual who's going to be competing at PFC 14. It goes down October 22nd in London, Ontario at Budweiser Gardens. Really excited to be checking out this next bout for Prospect Fighting Championships. Matty Hovorka and Josh Martiniuk getting out there and testing skills with one another, and happy to be welcoming Josh on the show for the very first time. How's your day going so far there, Josh?
Good, not bad. Just having a good rest day, trying to recover a little bit.
Yeah, what's the recuperation kind of routine look like? Do you have like particular things you do to kind of like subvert the damage from training and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, and today I don't really feel like I need it, but I might take an ice bath or like a hot bath or like even a hot cold shower or like I like to do an active rest sometimes, maybe like a bike ride. It's getting a little chillier now though, so just sometimes just moving and like getting your blood flowing and not just sitting on the couch all day can actually be pretty good for you.
Yeah, for sure. The active rest idea does make sense for sure. Are you like a pretty active kind of person? Like just always on the go, just wanting to like, keep active and whatnot?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. I think I've always been like that since a child. So that's probably why, I'm continuing to do it and doing martial arts, right? Like when, some people, they just got a lot of energy they need to burn. I'm one of those people for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like a legacy sort of thing to you. Like it seems like your dad kind of got you into the martial arts traditions and stuff like that. Was he like the first individual you were kind of learning from there? It seemed like he had like a background in different combat disciplines and whatnot.
Yeah, so my last name is Martiniuk, but my mom married a guy and she didn't want me to have my dad's last name, so my actual family last name is Fady. And they were one of like the first families, or one of like 4 families to bring Muay Thai to Canada.
Oh,
cool. So my whole life, like my uncle Con, he owned a gym. It was called, or I guess he still does, called Fady's Muay Thai. And I grew up there as a little kid watching everybody fight. I would train, but like only really I would train like when my dad would come get me every other weekend. So that would be my training, and I'd fight all the kids at the gym and all my cousins. We would just throw on the gloves and box, and all the people that would train there would just like circle around the ring and cheer us on. But we didn't know what we were doing. We'd just be like, punching each other in the head with our hands down, So I pretty much grew up like that, and yeah, to be honest, like I was always like, I would train, but I never would take it serious. And because I was always getting pushed to fight, like everybody just wanted me to fight, or they would think like, oh, you can't fight, or it was always just like a lot of pressure. So I didn't really get into fighting until I was like 19, 20 years old maybe. And then eventually I just was like, I was like, okay, fine, let's do this. So my dad he started training me a lot there, and he brought me to mass Thai boxing in Cambridge. Because from the beginning, I always wanted to do a MMA fight. So I didn't really care too much for Muay Thai. So I just want to be an MMA fighter. So he took me to that gym and he started teaching me Muay Thai. And yeah, of course, I started fighting Muay Thai right away. So yeah, my dad didn't have. I think he trained karate maybe a little bit as a kid, but it was mostly just Muay Thai because he was born in Laos. My family, they're more Thai, but like my uncle and my dad started fighting, they moved to Thailand, and so they would just fight every weekend, right? And then they moved from Thailand because of the Vietnam War to Canada, and then they continued here, but they pretty much stopped fighting at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot going through there. It would seem like the resolve is kind of there and everything like that, just going through like that level of strife. I mean, that's, very impressive. I would feel that's like interwoven in the fighter kind of spirit there.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So the goal was to always like have a competitive kind of run. I know you were talking about there was that brief sort of period where people were like, "Oh, you should fight, you should do this." Was there like when did the desire to compete start to manifest beyond like just the training and learning of technique? Like, was there a defined moment where you were like, "Oh yeah, it'd be good to get out there and like actually take a fight and try it," where it's like you actually organically want to do it?
Yeah, there definitely was actually. So back to like what I was saying when my dad brought me to mass Thai boxing. So. Or what really happened is my coach gave him a couple of tickets to a demo, and my dad was like, "Hey, you want to go see this?" And actually, he's like, "Bring this girl that I was talking to at the moment." I was like, I was like, okay, I had nothing to do, so I was like, why not? So I went there and I seen all these guys fighting, like just in house, so it wasn't like a real fight, right?
Yeah, okay.
But they're throwing down. I seen like my one buddy fighting this huge Jack guy that was like 30 pounds bigger than him, and they all had tattoos. And I'm like, that moment then and there, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm fighting now for sure. And I literally fought 2 months after that.
So it was like a smoker type of event almost?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, that does seem to be the primary gym, like Maz, martial arts, and stuff like that. But it does seem like you've gotten to, I guess, learn knowledge from a couple different spaces too. Like I think I saw you at Fifth Round Muay Thai in Stratford, and I also saw you in Pat Pitlick's backyard kind of setup. That looks like a wild sort of deal.
So Fifth Round is like an affiliate to our gym. Like Crew Joe, he and Sid and all those guys. They all came from our gym, kind of like. Used to be kind of like Stratford had a gym called 519 Fight Factory. This is like going back like 16 years ago or something. And eventually, like my coach, they moved to Stratford, so they ended up all going to Cambridge, and then they made Math. And so Crew Joe and all of them, they've been training under, like he was been training under Math for many years, right? So they're just like an affiliate. Now Pat was just like another guy, and that we kind of hooked up with, like he knew through the Steve guy I knew, but yeah, he's a beef, that guy. So that was some good training back there for sure. In the hot sun, like 29 degrees, not a fun time to be getting shark tanked and wrestling, but it was definitely a good learning experience.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about the wrestling. That was something I wanted to sort of touch on, because I saw like about like a couple months ago, I guess at this point, you put like an Instagram post saying, "Oh, I'm starting to actually enjoy wrestling a little bit." Like, did you notice a point when that kind of turned the corner a bit? Like, we're talking about the grounding and like the striking arts more so, but when did you, I guess, notice you were developing like a deeper kind of affinity for the grappling aspects of MMA?
Well, I've always liked the jiu-jitsu side, but with the wrestling, it's just like you don't really know what you're doing. You just kind of push through it, and like and because in Cambridge we have like a really good wrestling coach at a high school, so we're getting a lot of good wrestlers coming in there. And eventually, when because obviously my weakness is wrestling, right? Like I'm a striker, so like anytime like I go to Fifth Round or Pats or any of those, like right away they're just like wrestling, right? Because they know like that's what I need the most. And then eventually, like maybe a little bit after my last fight, I'm going with some guys that used to always just like, I'd pretty much just go right to jiu-jitsu, maybe even pull guard. And now I'm like taking them down or putting them against the cage. And I'm like, this is actually fun, because now at this point now I'm having more control over what I want to do. Right. And it's just like another good thing. It's a good pump, you know what I mean? It's like lifting weights without having to lift weights. So that was another aspect I enjoy of it. Because I like to lift, not necessarily lift weights anymore because of training, but I like to get that good pump, right, where you feel like you got a really good workout in, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it for sure. And yeah, I mean, just like speaking to the jiu-jitsu end of it, it looks like, at least based on an internet aggregator that I found, it looked like you've had a bit of like isolated jiu-jitsu kind of competitions too, like competing in the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro and like the blue belt kind of rank there. And it also was saying you were getting in some work at Henzo Gracie Academy, Ottawa, through that kind of time. Is that accurate? Were you getting in work through that kind of space? Is that kind of like the present sort of belt ranking and everything?
Definitely. Yeah. Like that Abu Dhabi thing, like that was a good learning experience, because I went into that and I knew like there's a couple Brazilian guys that were going to be in my weight class, the hard weight class. So I had that match. I lost my only one match, but like I didn't lose. Like I went in and I controlled the whole thing, and like I was on top. And that's another thing, because I was getting like, over the last couple of years I've been more enjoying trying to wrestle or trying to get on top, right? And I lost this match. Like we both scored 0 points. I thought I should have got at least an advantage or something, but they end up giving it to the other guy, basically because he pulled guard, right? So that was a good learning experience, because like a lot of my friends were like, yeah, you won like the MMA fight, but this is an MMA fight, right? Like, so basically he won from doing jiu-jitsu, I guess, even though like I had him in like a Kimura, I like almost mounted him, and the guy literally did nothing to me, but in their eyes, because it came down to a rest decision because there were 0 points scored, 0 submissions that, I had lost. So that was an interesting experience. And Ottawa, yeah, so my gym, Mass Thai Boxing, our jiu-jitsu is affiliate. So like when I go to Ottawa, that's basically just like going to my own gym because they're affiliated with us. So we get our jiu-jitsu from them. So our jiu-jitsu is Henzo Gracie Ottawa Jiu-Jitsu, I guess, right? So, and like annually, sometimes we'll go up there. Like it'll be a whole weekend of jiu-jitsu. So basically we go on a Friday. If you make it there early enough, you roll all Friday night. And then Saturday, so this is crazy. So you go from like 8 in the morning and you do jiu-jitsu till like 6 p.m. at night. And then you do it again the next day, maybe only till like 3 p.m. the next day. And you just get so much knowledge in, and you just learn so much. They have like 10 to 15 black belts, and in every hour will be a different black belt, and they're just all teaching. So it's just all technique all day, and then you just murder each other flowing or rolling after.
Yeah, I feel like that would really hone the skills for sure, and cool that there's that, connectivity with some of these different gyms and stuff like that. A great martial arts scene around here for sure. But I did want to talk about this specific fight there because, kind of running it back from like the amateur days there and stuff like that. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious on like the thoughts from that first fight there, because it seemed like there was like maybe a level of controversy your team kind of perceived in the stoppage, maybe a touch premature. Is that still kind of the characterization, the thought?
They kind of wrote it like my team. Like, I think it was mostly just me. But, like, to what happened in this fight was, without getting into too much detail, but, so, yeah, me and Matty, we fought in a co-main event maybe 5-6 years ago in Sarnia. And, yeah, so we were like, the fight had started. It only lasted about a minute or something. And he's like a Taekwondo guy, and he's really bouncy, right? And I did hear he had a pretty nasty right hand. But he was very bouncy, and I was kind of being bouncy. But sometimes in Muay Thai, you just want to, like, kill, right? Like, you don't even want to play that game. And he was bouncing, and my coach, he yelled for an inside low kick. So I went through, and he probably heard it too, so that's why he was able to get out of the way. So I threw my inside low kick, and I missed because he backed out. And out of frustration, something I've never done, I switched my stance to, like, right-handed. I'm a left-handed fighter. And then I just threw a power jab at his face that landed, and he threw a clean overhand right over the top. And I shouldn't have done that because, like, I wasn't prepared to defend that because I don't fight at a stance almost ever, right? So it landed. I didn't know what had happened. I just knew I got hit with a shot, and it dropped me, but I ended up, like, catching myself before I even hit the mat. And then he started swarming me with punches. But, like, I felt like in my mind, like, I knew I had blocked every single punch. Like, I just guarded my head, the sides of my head really smartly because I couldn't see, like, exactly where he was, and I just knew he was, like, trying to take my head off. So I had, like, guarded my head really smart. I was just trying to find my way to get up, and I felt like I was already on my way up. And then they stopped the fight, and yeah, I had only taken one punch. So, and then I went, and this fight was like in a bar. So then, like, we went back, and some random guy came up to me that I have no idea to this day who he was, and he had just this, like, perfect, like, he must have been like cage side, like he had the most perfect view. And he showed me, he's like, yeah, bro, don't worry, you got punched in the neck. Like, I wouldn't even feel bad about that. And he showed me the angle, and it just went over and just landed right on my neck. And I think it was more of like a pressure point thing that had hurt me. I didn't have any concussion I wasn't hurt at all, and I felt like they stopped the fight early. And, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? I kind of just, like, I just felt bad because I was like, I don't know, like, that's not how that should have went. Like, this fight, they put us together again for a reason, because styles make fights, and they want to see us bang, right? So I was disappointed that the fight didn't get to, it didn't get to be what it should have been. So, like, everybody, like, it wasn't that much controversy. To me, I just felt like, I had only taken that one shot on the neck. No other punch had landed that I know of. Like, I didn't have any bruising or, I just felt like I could have continued to fight, like, and, it is what it is, though, so we're here now.
So to that point, does it even feel like a rematch in a certain sense, just because of, like, the brevity and everything? Like, you can't really necessarily collect much intel from that I would have to think. Or is there a certain sense of like redemption, like even up the series, as it were?
Yeah, like I have nothing against Matty or anything. Like it's redemption for myself because like I felt like I let my gym down that day. Like I was the only one fighting. Like I made my coaches and everybody drive like 3 hours away or whatever it was, and I just didn't perform. And and I know I can do better than that for my gym, right? So. And at that time, I literally knew, like, I'd never seen Matty fight before. I only heard, like, that this one guy I fought previous to that had a tough fight with him. So I didn't, and like, my coach was like, oh, he's a good striker, like, but I had never, I'd never seen him fight at that point, so I didn't really have much data to go off of. It was just like, just go in there and see what happens, right?
Yeah, so now you feel like you have a much more comprehensive idea of who he is and what he brings to the table. Because it's an interesting sort of fight. Like, I mean, you guys fought quite a while ago, like about a bit over 6.5 kind of years ago. But you said kind of like the awareness sort of really began from that sort of point now. So I would think that you've been, studying what he's been doing a fair bit since then, have more of a sense of like his, I guess, stylistic proclivities, like what he really does well.
Yeah, most definitely, because he fought like another opponent that I had fought, and I was ring cage side for it, and I got to see, like, I've seen a few of his fights now, and I can see some of his tendencies, and I see like how he throws that right hand now, and I see how he kicks and all that, right? So it's definitely different now for sure. And then I've definitely been studying.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great fight coming up and everything like that, and a cool event. Just like going to like an altruistic cause, helping people out. So yeah, I love those like London cards that kind of can create that a little bit, just like helping people out, raising funds and all. But yeah, definitely excited for this fight, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show to give some insights ahead of it. But I also want to be mindful of your time and schedule too, man. So is there anything you might want to add as we're wrapping up here?
No, not well, just that like. I think like if I've never seen. I think when you talk about me and Matty, like I've never seen Matty in a boring fight. Like I think me and Matty are very, very similar, to be honest. Like we might have different skill sets and different styles, but our style is very similar. We're both strikers. Like we can fight on the ground, but we'd prefer not to. But, like, I think, like, there's a reason why they keep putting us together, because I've never seen him in a boring fight. I don't think I've ever been in a boring fight myself. So I think, like, this fight has so much potential for, like, it's like what Jamie, he posted, like, a little thing being like, this fight for sure ends in a finish. And I would be shocked if it ended any other way, because, like, win or lose, any time I've seen Matty fight, win or lose, I've enjoyed every second of that fight. And I think you can pretty much say the same for me. So if you want to see two guys, like, and I know Matty has power, but I'm telling you, I got a lot more power than he does. He was just able to show his power. This time he's going to feel my power. And, like, if you want to see, like, it's going to be violent. Like, I can see blood, and, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but, like, I just know, like, it's one of those fights you just go into and you're like, whatever happens, happens, because I'm just ready for war. And I think, like, anybody who wants to see, like, a real scrap between two talented strikers, they need to watch this fight.
Yeah, it's a very interesting fight because, like, as the amateur scene is getting more fleshed out and just really MMA around the world, like, I feel like we're getting more of that where it's like the amateur fight ran back as pros. Like, there's much more of that culture in boxing, I find. But cool to see that start kind of materializing in mixed martial arts there. And yeah, super excited to check out this fight on October 22nd. And anyone in the London, Ontario area should make sure they're coming out and checking out PFC 14. Always a great time, but it was a great time had on the show, and I appreciate you giving some great insights there, Josh. Hopefully you have a good rest of your day there, and looking forward to being there for when the fight goes down.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you there.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at PFC 14, and that is going down in London, Ontario. That is at Budweiser Gardens. Always a great time with Prospect Fighting Championships, and a very compelling fight between Matty Hovorka and Josh Fady Martiniuk, and happy to be welcoming Matty onto the show for the first time. How's your day going so far there, man?
It's good. I just got done the 9-hour work day, then was at the gym for 3 hours. So it's a long day, but makes it worth it at the end. Get to come home to my daughter. Just getting tired. Ready for bed soon.
Yeah. Yeah, the recuperation definitely key. It sounds like that'll be needed after what sounds like a long day there.
Yeah. I started an electrical apprenticeship like 8 months ago, so I've been juggling that. And I've been training for my last fight that I had there in Vancouver. I was working through my apprenticeship while I was training for that one as well, and I'm lucky enough to have a job that kind of lets me go if I do need to train that day a little bit early or what you need.
Yeah, just that understanding from people at the job, just what you're doing with the mixed martial arts endeavors.
Yeah, they actually bought a table for this fight too. For the foremans are all going to watch it. They did the charity table.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you're localized to the area from what I can tell. Like, it seems like you represent Team Tompkins and everything like that, and adrenaline and that whole lineage. Like, how does it feel to be, competing in front of that London crowd? I imagine this would be a big fire up for you.
Oh, I love it. Like, we're fighting for PFC too. I fought pretty much my entire amateur career for PFC. I did a couple fights outside of it, but majority of it was with PFC, and they're just such a good organization, and they've always treated me so well that I do like fighting at home. Last couple fights have been away and have been against the hometown guy in BC, so it's nice to be able to come back and actually be at home for once.
Yeah, and you articulated it perfectly, like segueing into, my next question there. Like, it's not even a local kind of connection, and as far as it being London, but just also under the, PFC banner, just like you said, having fought amateur under their banner against, like, Noah Croswell and Matt Doss, and also getting, a pro victory with them. So I would feel like there's, like, that good kind of positive familiarity with Prospect, based on what you're saying.
Yeah, Jamie's a great guy. So is Woody, and they're just all around a great organization.
Yeah, and who are we expecting to be the corner personalities for this one? I've seen some pics from different fights. It looks like you're helmed by, Mark Hominick and Sam Stout, some OGs from the London area. Who's going to be in the corner for this one coming up?
Yeah. I think I definitely, Mark for sure. He's always, when he can make it, and he's always there. So he'll be in there for sure. There's a couple other names. We haven't really gotten my second corners nailed down. Anybody where the guy Sonny that fights out of our gym, or that used to fight out of our gym, another Team Tompkins original. Got Pete Brown could. I think Hordecki's going away with Malcolm, I think, to Saudi Arabia for his UFC fight. So him and Sam, I'm not sure if Sam's going, but Sam could be another one in my corner again. Like, they're all good people to have in your corner.
Oh, yeah, I feel like you'd have, like, an endless amount of, like, quality people you could have in that position. And, yeah, Malcolm Gordon seems like a guy that you have a level of connectivity with, just seeing past pictures of you guys training with each other. I feel like those were some good sessions. I feel like an iron sharpens iron kind of adage would get brought up in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I was super lucky. It just happened to be the time that he was moving to London, Ontario, and I got lucky enough to be his training partner for the better of 4 or 5 years. And actually, how it worked out is he's down. He was down last week, and he's down again for this week and next week as well to train before he leaves for his UFC fight. So it's nice to see him come home.
Yeah, for sure. Always good to see that, for sure. But something I was noticing that I think is an interesting part of this fight is that we're getting a dynamic where there's, like, you guys fighting professional in a rematch where you guys initially fought in amateur. And I was just kind of thinking about that earlier because I was talking to Josh. And, I mean, it's a relatively, like, newer kind of thing in MMA because, like, in boxing, obviously there's been instances of, like, they fought in the amateurs, ran it back as pros, but, like, amateur MMA, a relatively new kind of thing. So, like, I guess how did you feel when this rematch kind of got brought up? Is there a certain sense of familiarity almost with you guys running it back, or just because the first time was so quick it almost feels like the first fight in a certain regard?
Yeah, that's you definitely hit it there with that last part. Like, it's because it wasn't very long. You don't really get to, because you don't feel the guy out. You don't really get a chance to know how strong he is, if his wrestling's good, if his jiu-jitsu's good, or how he throws. I mean, it's definitely going to be like fighting him for the first time, that'll be for sure. But I watched this fight with Cody Kabanchik, and I think I know what I'm expecting anyway.
So you think there was like some big takeaways from that fight, like sort of like a blueprint articulated in that fight that'll inform this one for you a bit?
Yeah, I mean, like Cody doesn't like. We don't have the same fighting style either. Like he's a great fighter. We're just not the. So it's the stuff that I would do is different than the stuff he would do. So you can't really take out how he reacted to certain things. He could be totally different, right? Totally different fight, totally different outcome, totally different. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. You watch tape on people all the time, and unless you get to the really high levels, I mean, I don't really see a need for it. Like I watch a couple things of him just to get the basis of okay, he's a brawler, okay, he's technical, but when you're still in the low level of pros, I don't think it really matters as much as watching tape and taking away bits and pieces of his fight game. I think it just comes down to like we're both skilled enough to be professional, and we're both going to get in there and do what we do. I mean, he can watch tape on me all day long at this point, but it's not the same. I don't think it's the same. And like really, you only have 2 or 3 fights that are online to watch, right? So is that his, or like when's the last time Josh Martiniuk fought before? Like I haven't followed his career, so I don't know like when's the last time he fought before Cody. Like how much has changed since then? So yeah, I'm not a big one on watching tape back and dissecting their forms.
Yeah, and also too, even if like say your guys' first fight played out where it was like a back and forth decision kind of affair, just I think how long ago it would almost lend itself to you guys being entirely different fighters too. Like it looks like it was almost about like 6.5 years ago, close to that. So I would feel like you guys would just be entirely different martial artists at this point anyway. Oh
yeah, like my body's different. Like I was a bit heavier at that point. I lifted weights a lot more then. I was walking around probably more at 160, and I was fighting at 45, right? So now I've slimmed down a lot because I normally do fight at 135. So, like, there's going to be a lot of factors that are different. It's not going to be the same fight, and it's not going to be the same. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say if it's going to be the same outcome, but I don't think it will be. I think it's just it'll be a better fight for sure.
Yeah, and you talk about fighting a bit heavier when you were an amateur. Was that just because I know sometimes, like, fighters will do it where like they kind of go through the amateur career like a bit heavier without really doing like a big water cut for the weight necessarily, and then more go to like an organic natural weight category when they turn pro. Was the progression mindful of that, or was it more of what you were talking about, just more like weights added into it and you kind of like supplemented the routine with maybe more cardio based work?
Yeah, coming out of high school, like both my parents are professional bodybuilders, so all through high school, I did a lot of weights. Like weights was pretty much my main thing. So I was always in the background of lifting weights. And back then, I had a lot more time on my hands, where I could go to school and not have to work, or I could work a couple hours and then go to the gym and hit weights. And now I don't have as much time to focus on that. And I don't think weights are that like a typical bodybuilder style weight routine is not conducive to being an athlete, I don't think, anymore. So the weights I do are more just strength based, not size based, if you know what I mean, like snatches, cleans, stuff like that, and just more high cardio stuff. So like my body has gotten a lot slimmer, and yeah, I don't think that, and a lot of like that heavy muscle mass that I was carrying around at the time, it's hard to keep that conditioned. It's a lot more work for your heart to pump blood through your muscles than it is if you're just naturally strong at a lighter weight.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, just like that functional strength would probably help with certain like, you know, grappling kind of situations, like maintaining positional control and everything. Have you noticed that, like improved grip strength and certain things like that?
Yeah, like I'm still strong. Like I'm not. It's just a different strength, right? And then once you get older too, like when we fought 6 years ago, I would have been 21, 22. So you got different strengths as you start getting older. You start getting more old strength in your muscles, right? And you do different jobs. You work different jobs. Like I've done like I was out in the rigs for a bit. I was doing different physically laborious jobs. It gives you a different type of strength when you're it's different. Weight strength is different than punctuality strength, I guess. I don't know how to call that, like athletic strength.
Yeah, more cleanly oriented to kind of what you're doing. But you were talking about like your parents being like very much involved in like bodybuilding and stuff like that. Like, what are the thoughts on your MMA endeavors? Like, are they going to be checking out the fights? Do they got a table too, or like what's the dynamic?
They never miss. They never miss a fight. My dad flew out to Vancouver my last fight. Like they're so for this. Like you realize I started this when I was 11. And, well, I transferred over from Taekwondo when I was 11, and that was my dad driving me to London 6 days a week from Woodstock, which is a half an hour drive, just to get training in. So, like, they're very much invested in my fighting game and very much supportive. And my mom's like, she's also, aside from professional bodybuilding, she's a dietitian, she's a personal trainer, so I get cheap dietary advice.
Yeah, and it seems like you were doing like a seminar out in Woodstock, really not all that. Well, I guess it is like a bit ago at this point. It looks like it's like pre-pandemic, actually. I was just kind of creeping through the gram a little bit. It looks like you were doing a seminar back there at the Woodstock Taekwondo Club. Is that kind of what was going on there? And like that must have been kind of a cool thing if that was the case, just kind of...
Unfortunately, it never ended up panning out because of the pandemic had hit right as like the weekend of the pandemic hit, and I had to unfortunately cancel that. That will be something that I'll be doing again. But no, for that, I know what you're talking about is for mental health awareness, I think. Yeah. But yeah, that the weekend of that it was supposed to be, they started doing like lockdowns. So we had the okay from the club to continue to do it, but everybody that was involved, like all the people that were participating or taking it, a lot of them felt like they didn't want to do it because of the COVID, and everybody was afraid of it. Nobody was sure what to do. I think if I do it again now, it'll be. A lot of people's minds have changed to that tune.
Yeah, I think that would just be cool too. Just it being like interwoven in your martial arts training and stuff like that. Just like being a student there and then going back to it years later. I think that would be a cool dynamic for you. Like you would find that to be like an important sort of thing.
Oh yeah, you never forget where you started either. Like I still have a lot of respect for my my master Samard, the instructor at the dojo. Like although we don't train now, it's just like I was with him from 3 years old to 11. Like we shared a lot of time and a lot of memories and stuff. So I always remember where I'm from.
Yeah, but also in the context of COVID, like it seems like there's a lot less of the restrictions in place, which is good. It seems like a sense of normalcy is starting to kind of creep back into the picture there. It seems like you're getting to be more active than you had been before, obviously in previous instances, not for lack of trying to get out there, but I mean, just getting a couple, outings this calendar year, one of the more active years you've had in a bit. Like, how happy are you about just like that strength of schedule and just like getting out of the pandemic a bit?
Oh, well, it's definitely a relief. I mean, I think the more everybody, I don't want it to get all political with everything, and I'm just glad that everything's starting to open up. It's just, everybody's getting sick and tired of it, and I'm happy that things are sort of going back to normal. I definitely enjoy being able to fight again. The 2 years were awful, because there were 2 years of a prime age for my fighting, and 2 years that I could have put a lot of fights in, right? I took a lot out of my fight game. Now, I was 26 going into it. Now I'm 28 with a kid, and it's not the same, right? I'm not where I was 2 years ago, which is no excuse for anything. It's just that those are two precious years. It's not like I was 21 and I still have 10 years of fighting left, or if I was 19, like I hadn't started anything. I was right in the verge of going pro, and then it stopped. So it definitely is a lot. It's a big relief to finally get this going again before, I do get too old and kids get too much or things don't work out.
Yeah, I get what you mean, just to a scale of like being able to consistently focus on, doing this and just like seeing like how far you can kind of, pursue it and all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it seems like a decent time for things clearing up too, because yeah, I mean, you mentioned being a dad and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like it would be a bad time if like the previous restrictions were in place, just having like a young kid and stuff like that. So that's probably good, just things opening up more, and she gets to explore around and kind of see the world in a bit more of an organic way, to say the very least.
Yeah, like I would hate to send my kid to school in a mask. Like that's awful to me. And like there's things that we're doing. Like we on Sunday, at 8:45 in the morning. Started this halfway through summer. She does swimming classes, and she does soon she'll be doing indoor soccer when she can start like grasping that concept a little bit more. She's only a year and a half, but she's getting there. Like we play soccer inside all the time, so. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more things with her, and not being a sheltered first 2 years of her life.
Yeah, I just love seeing like a lot of stuff coming back. Like concerts was a big thing for me, and just I saw you went to a pretty rare looking concert a few years ago, Stone Temple Pilots. Like, is that kind of the stuff you're vibing out to generally? Like, you into like the alt rock and stuff like that? And I guess specifically, how was that particular show? I would think that would be a fun time.
Oh, it was awesome. I like grunge. I like country. I like pretty much everything except for screamo, probably. But to each his own. If that's what you like, it's what you like. I do like grunge. I do like Stone Temple Pilots. I like Bush, and Bush was there that night too. And he ran. Gavin ran right beside us, like within an arm's reach. It was awesome.
Oh, fun.
So I'm glad, definitely, for concerts coming back. We had. I had bought my fiance what was that band? I can't think of their name. Oh no, they're at Budweiser Gardens, but again, the pandemic had pushed them away, and I had actually a fight planned for the time that they had pushed it. So it was. Why am I drawing a blank on this name? That's crazy. Yeah, but anyway, I definitely. What concerts do you like going to?
Yeah, similar kind of vibe. It sort of depends, though, I guess. Like, I guess the last one I went to was a music festival called Hillside Music Festival, which is, I guess, like an indie alternative kind of vibe. Like, Bahamas played there, and Boy Golden, like, sort of like indie 88.1 kind of stuff. But, yeah, I'm sort of down for whatever. Like, I'll go to a metal show if the mood feels right. Just, country shows I've been to. Yeah, no, it's always a good time for sure. And yeah, Stone Temple Pilots have a few heaters. Like Vaseline's a banger of a song, Interstate Love Song. I like those jams.
Sour Girl, Sex Tape Thing, all the songs are good. Even I like Velvet Revolver when it is Slither.
Oh yeah.
That's Scott Weiland, right? And Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I thought they were one of like the better super groups. Like they didn't really sound like they were, I don't know, like the two different bands mashing together. Like it was a little more cohesive. Yeah, they had a couple songs. I think they had another song called Dirty Little Thing that was pretty catchy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some good rock, and yeah, good to see a lot of that stuff coming back, the concerts and all, but I'm especially excited to see live fights coming back, and it's always good to check out the live London, Ontario fights, and this card should be no stranger to, that history for sure. But you've been really, good with your time, man, and I appreciate you coming on the show, but I also want to be mindful of your time and schedule too. So is there maybe anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up, Matty?
No, just thanks for having me on the show or on the podcast here. This is great. This is fun. It was great to talk this stuff out. I mean, I enjoy this part of there's fighting part of it, and I like this part too. Communicating with people is pretty fun to do as well. So I just appreciate you having me on, and all the best to you.
Oh, thanks so much, man. All the best to you as well. And yeah, definitely a mutually enjoyable thing. I enjoyed getting to talk to you. And yeah, to reiterate, I think people are really going to enjoy this event, pfctix.com. People can snag those, and PFC 14 should be a good one on October 22nd. And yeah, going to be interesting to see you rematch Josh Martiniuk and see kind of where you guys are at and the skills you've developed since. It should be a good throwdown. But yeah, in the meantime, you enjoy the rest of your night there, man, and looking forward to checking out the fight there when it goes down.
Thanks. And if you haven't been to a live fight, you have to go, because there's no sport like live fighting. There isn't. I've been to football, hockey, baseball. There's just no sport like going there and watching live fighting with your buddies. So make sure you guys get tickets.
Wholeheartedly agree with that, and yeah, should be an awesome time. Very much looking forward to it. We're in very close proximity now, just a few weeks out. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Counting down the days here, and you have a good night there, man. And yeah, looking forward to peeping this tilt here.
Thank you. Hey, have a nice night.